Hey, I wanted to make a quick video for you before Zelda went home on how I am walking her on a leash. That way we can transition you guys to the house and make leash walking easier. That way you have this video to reference later on if you need it, if you need to do any kind of refreshers or anything. I'm going to show you what I've been doing using the e-collar and not using the e-collar. That way you have both methods of leash corrections and walking with her in case either A, you don't have the e-collar, or B, you have the e-collar but you don't think you really need that strong of a correction. You think just a simple leash tug or something like that will help better. So we're going to go ahead and give you both options today. That way you can see both and how best to work with her when you have her. So I did mention to you that I was going to have her on some kind of a slip collar system. I still want that to happen and I still may order one for you. But shipping right now, man, in the U.S. is ridiculous. And so I had a hard time getting it here in time. And so I'm working with her now the last few times we've been on a walk just on her flat collar that you guys brought with us. Just in case we decide to, I think she might start pooping for me. Just in case you guys either decide, A, you don't want to buy one in the future because this is working well, or whatever the case may be. But as soon as she's done here, we will get started. But this is a great teaching point. I won't make you have to watch her poop or anything. But you see how she's pooping for me fairly easily on this. This is probably a 6-foot leash. That is awesome. If she has the potential to be a service dog and you want to keep that focus on her, she has to be able to go to the bathroom on a leash this short and on command. So that's definitely something that you want to work with while you're at home. You know, every once in a while, mix it up and take her outside on this small leash and let her go potty. Every time you see her go potty, 1 second, hash. Every time you see her go potty outside, as she's doing it, mark the behavior. So good Zelda, good pee-pees, good Zelda, good poo-poos, whatever you want to say to instill that. That way when you're out and about, and you always do potty breaks before you go into a store. So that way if you're out and about with her while y'all are going to the store, you can stop and tell her to go to the bathroom on command. So, now that we've got that over, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hash. I'm not going to tell you again. Sorry, I've got Hash out with me too as a great distraction tool, and he's being a turd today. So I'm going to go ahead and take my leash short because that's what we're going to focus on today is healing. And I teach dogs on leashes that you get the leash I give you. Because I can be flashy and I can teach the dog to walk on the short leash or on a loose leash all day long. But realistically, it's super inconvenient. I'm short. The dog's going to trip over it. I'm going to trip over the leash. It's just going to be a hot mess. It's going to get stuck under the armpit, stuck under the legs. And it's really just overall insensible. So I teach that you get the leash that I give you. Meaning if my leash is this short or this long or even this short, you are not to pull on me whatsoever. Right? So typically my rule of thumb when a dog is healing is shoulders to hips or legs. So right about here is right where I like them. That way if I look over, or I can use my peripheral vision and I can still see the dog. Especially for service work and the way people are in the world nowadays with touching and grabbing and poking and prodding and people bringing their fake dogs in and risking other dog attacks. I generally feel much safer if I can see the dog. And so sometimes even if I'm out in public and it's really busy, I'll even have Hash maybe even back leg to hip, just so I can see the whole dog. It makes me feel so much more comfortable. Hey. And so that's about where I keep it on heel. Obviously, it's personal preference. Zelda. It's personal preference on how you want to hold her, how you feel comfortable, even left or right. Obviously, switch it up every once in a while so she gets used to being on either side. But both of you have a dominant side that you both prefer to work on. And so you just kind of have to play with it on what is best for everybody, handler and dog, okay? So, now let's get into a little bit of corrections. So, I like to do as like a precursor to the e-collar. So, a pre-warning to the warning is what's called a leash pop. And so, all I'm doing if she's going to pull is, and obviously the severity of how hard you pop is going to be, you know, what she's doing wrong. So, right now, she's generally not pulling very much. Every once in a while, she's getting a little distracted. No big deal. We literally just walked out of the door. It's going to take her a second to kind of decompress and get used to the mindset of we're walking on a leash and working. So if she pulls like she is now, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick tug like that. Nothing hard, but you see how she instantly corrected and she loosened up, right? So if we're walking and we're not necessarily walking for work, we're just out for a walk, but it's busy or there's people around, or whatever the case may be, and she may need to be in a heel like this. I typically only do 1 or 2 of those. Let that truck go by. I only typically do 1 or 2 leash pops like that. No ma'am, quit. 2 or 3 times at the most. If they're still not getting it and they're e-collar trained, then I'll graduate into the e-collar, which she's still not. And on this collar, her working level is at a 2 to a 3, just depending on where she's at. Sometimes it seems like she can't feel the 2 whatsoever, and I'll bump her up to a 3 and she screams like a baby. Not meaning that I'm overhurting her, just meaning she's feeling it and it scared her a little bit or whatever. So I just wanted to give you a little heads up there that she may squeak a little bit. I'm not hurting her, I promise. It's just her weird reactions between the 2 levels. So you see how she's pulling real bad right now. She has been for me for a minute, has not relentlessly not quit. So now I'm going to move on to the e-collar. I'm going to go ahead and do a little correct. Quit pulling me. Tell her to quit pulling me. And you saw how she kind of did that little flinch. I have it on a 3 because I kind of wanted her to really get the point that this is, this is ridiculous. We're done pulling now. And look at how much better she's already done with the pulling. See how she's still kind of lunging forward, but I can give these little quick collar leash corrections and she's fixing herself, right? So that's what we like to see. And like I said, the first few minutes that you're really out walking is going to be a lot of this. Okay, you really need to get it together. For a dog, this is super exciting. Duh. So for the first few minutes, we're really going to need to reel it in. Expect that you do that for quite a while. I think it took my dogs, oh man, even upwards of a year to really get out of that. We're going for a walk, explosive behavior. And even then, now that even though some of them are getting into their senior years, if we haven't been on a walk for a while, they'll still have that behavior once we first start walking, really explosive, excited, ready to go. Which is not bad. Like I said, this is super exciting for dogs, right? So we just keep correcting it and move on until they're settled down. So that's a little bit about how we're doing it. So you can add in your little leash pops to settle down. That was obviously a really little one to get her attention. She's still not cooperating, which I'm going to move it back down to a 2. Although I may not need to. She's got her eye on a squirrel. Then I'll she seems to do better if I do quick taps like this versus the long holds. That's typically how I train, is I will push and hold the button and hold the stimulus down until the dog is back in the position that I want them to be in, which is right about here. She doesn't seem to do that very well. She doesn't necessarily respond to that one as well as she does those quick little pushes that I did, which is fine. All dogs learn different. That is not a big deal at all. That's just how she learns best. So in her case, instead of the push and hold, I'm just going to tap, 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 tap until she gets to her right spot. So we'll try that again. She's really keyed up on hash right now. And if she decides to get pulley, we'll do that again. That way you can see it slow motion. So we're ahead. We're whining. I'm going to tap, 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 tap. We're still tapping. She got to my shoulder, so I let go. And now you see how she's kind of sticking back by me again. She's learning that, okay, this sensation I don't like stops when I stand right here, so it's probably best that I just stand right here. And with her energy and her drive, you're going to have to do that a lot. I have not been able to get it out of her yet. I have significantly dropped how much she does it and how much she explodes like that. But like I've been saying over and over and over again, it's going to just be a management problem for the majority of her life. And hopefully you guys end up proving me wrong and she ends up proving me wrong. And you can come back to me in 6 months and say, hey, she's working great for me and we don't have these issues anymore. And that is something that I would 100% love to hear you tell me. But, professionally speaking, it's a little unlikely. So we'll just kind of have to watch it. But this is exactly what you'll do at home. You'll find her working level on her e-collar if you have it on while she's walking. And your working level is the lowest number of stimulus that she feels. And so the reason behind finding the working level is because not every time do I need to shock her real hard, so it's this extreme punishment, right? Sometimes I just need a quick nudge, hey, we need to fix this. And that's when you use your working level. And you will steadily increase stimulus levels from your working level the more and more she does not listen. Okay? But generally, you'll always go back to your working level, which she is on right now, the Garmin PT 550, I think is what it's called. And this has levels 1 through 7, and then those levels double. So technically, there's 21 levels. And I keep her pretty much, like I said earlier, between a 2 and a 3. 2 is really our working level. 3 is our, okay, hey, you're for some reason, you're acting like you're not feeling the 2, so we'll just come up to a 3. Or a 3 is like, oh, she's really watching that squirrel over there. Let's preliminarily get her attention back before she tries to chase it, right? So sometimes we'll need that when her distraction is really focused on something else and we need her to get her attention a little bit more. But as you can tell, for the last 10 minutes we've been walking and talking, look how much better her pulling has already gotten. She's gotten used to me telling her no. She's settled down. You know, this is still exciting, but not quite as exciting where I need to be so explosive. And so, yeah, her healing is doing great. I'm going to send you guys home with her collar. Hopefully we can transition to it. If you are having a hard time on just the flat collar and whatever e-collar y'all purchase, please let me know and I'll get a different kind of collar sent out for you to try. Like the one I was telling you about earlier, the dominance dog, or something similar to that, okay? No, ma'am. And so, you saw kind of how she tried to come around me. And that's all that I do in that situation, is I was kind of hard to see my hand, but I pulled the leash up tight like this, and I stopped. So it was super uncomfortable for her to be around me. I wasn't choking her. I wasn't pulling on the leash, nothing. I was just holding it taut, so that she really couldn't move any more forwards around me, right? And that taught her, well, I can't go forward, so I might as well turn around. And I laid in that command. Well, I don't know if I said it for y'all or not just then, but I usually say fix it, and that'll kind of teach them, okay, this is what I need to do, get around. And then you could turn it into a command and make it something educational and fun. But that's kind of how we've been walking. I wanted to make sure that y'all had some information on how to walk with an e-collar and how to walk without one, and what to do. And like I said earlier, you don't have to have the e-collar on when you walk. She does fairly decent without it. I mean, you saw I only pushed it maybe twice in 11 minutes. So you can stick to just the e-collar pops, or the leash pops, excuse me, if you need to. You can implement the e-collar. It's really important that you kind of mix it up, and if you want to use the e-collar, that's fine. But every once in a while, not necessarily take a walk in something that's going to be really triggering for her, like a park with dogs and people, or a shopping center or whatever, but maybe even just around your block. Take her for a walk, Zelda, without the e-collar on. That way you can keep up your practice without it in the, you know, any instance that you can't use it or don't have it or it's dead or whatever, you need to be able to control her without it as well, right? So make sure you're taking time to practice without it as well as with it. But if you have any questions, you guys know, you can always call me, text me, message me, whatever, and I will be sure to help you the best I can. I look forward to bringing her home to you tomorrow. I do want to add real quick before I go, if she does get really distracted on something, like just now, for instance, it made me think of it, somebody who was bouncing a basketball or something a couple houses down, and she really keyed up on it and was looking at it. I do want to let you know, before I forget, that to get her attention away from it, I've been doing a small leash pop, and then just a small one, just enough that it gets her attention, so just a quick little, you know, something like that, and then a leave it. Zelda, leave it. Okay? When you lay in that command, then you reiterate the behavior you're expecting, right? Not the behavior you want. So as soon as you give her that leash pop to get her attention away from it, say, Zelda, leave it. And that way she knows now, okay, 1, I got the leash pop, so I really shouldn't be doing this. And 2, Mom said leave it, and that means I gotta ignore it and move on, right? So that makes laying in all of these commands with these different actions really helps getting her in the mood of just doing it ahead of time when she has something to follow through with, if that makes sense.